The time is on us. So thank you all very much for joining the webinar today. We are going to be covering 5 ways to streamline your fund marketing. And what essentially that means is what strategies, what techniques, what technologies can you apply to your fund marketing that will essentially free you up to do more marketing, right? And the reason that I thought it would be useful to do is because more and more fund marketers are getting drawn into reporting, they're getting drawn into creative, they're getting drawn into technology, and almost bordering on CRM, and are taking all the responsibilities on. And at the same time, fund marketing teams are also pushing into the asset raising part as well and the IR element. So it's a kind of way to say, right, how can I create more time for myself by implementing a bunch of strategies? So that's what we're going to cover today. Hopefully it'll be 30-35 minutes with questions at the end. So thank you all for being so generous with your time. Let's get into it. So a quick thing about ProFundCom, we've been, as I mentioned in the preamble, we've been going for 20 years. And what we're all about using digital marketing to help our clients raise and preserve AuM using marketing automation as a core part to that. And we integrate with all CRMs that are available, and we use that data to push out marketing content, whether that's social, email, portal, website, and bring that all together in one place. We also produce quarterly reports around the state of the market, and every quarter, if you're on our mailing list, you'll get these reports. So what are we all about? ProFundCom really helps managers, and this is really key to what a fund manager and a marketing manager does, is being able to build out your go-to-market strategy. And whether you're using ProFundCom, whether you're using any other products out there, the fund marketer pillars are built around building out a go-to-market strategy. And it really consists of 5 key elements: building out your fund narrative, creating brand awareness, from the brand awareness, doing demand generation, that's inbound leads that you get, measuring engagement, and from that, analyzing the analytics. And doing that over a period of time will hopefully fill your funnel and essentially give you the ability to close some investment. Now, these are the fundamentals. And the reason I kind of talk about it is when we talk to a lot of our clients, they build their go-to-market strategy all around, well, let me create a website and send out some fact sheets on email. And that's literally number 3. But in essence, it's almost no point bringing an agency on. There's no point spending all that money unless you've actually done step 1, which is building out your fund narrative, and number 2, creating content that allows you to make people aware of your fund, of your brand. And this becomes important as well, because your daily job becomes, once you've kind of done all the heavy lifting around your fund narrative, is taking your brand, creating content, and then analyzing how it's being engaged with, and then creating an echo chamber for that. And that is the second part of the go-to-market strategy that fund managers should be thinking about, is how do they go from automating that process? So they create content, how can they split that content up, deploy it over multiple channels, long form, short form, video, website, social post, email, analyze that content, and then work out what's working and what's not working. Of course, some things that we send out are for compliance, some of them are general communications that have to be sent, mandatory communications that have to be sent out, but there's more to it, that especially now as we are very much in the digital world. So that's the automated go-to-market, the extension of the go-to-market program. And what we're going to cover today is around integrations that need to be built out and the reasons why you need integration, reporting. So what kind of reports are useful for a fund manager? The new, well, it may or may not be new for the people on this webinar, but sales enablement is this is something that sales teams are asking more and more of, is for the marketing teams to be able to provide qualified leads to the sales teams. You know, some people call them TQLs, totally qualified leads. There's another name for them as well, but that's generally it, is giving sales teams leads that are further down the pipeline than somebody just downloaded a fact sheet or was on your website. As I mentioned just now, we're going to cover workflow automation. So how do you build out automations that just make your life easy? And at the end, we're just going to we're going to touch on rather, you know, template designs and how you automate marketing operations. So here we go. Essential integrations. So as you generate more content, integration is really important. And the reason it's important is because you are creating lots of channels and lots of content. Sorry, let me start again. You're creating lots of channels, lots of content for lots of channels. And essentially, you're creating lots and lots of data points. So, you know, you could be creating blogs, you could be running webinars, you could have meetings, events that you're running with thought leadership. You're talking to people about your investment strategy. There's all kinds of content that's being created. Now, once you've created that content, it's about splitting this content out so that some of it can be used on video, some of it can be long form, some of it could be short form. So once you've created this content, once you've chopped this content up, it's now a case of how do you then deliver this content. And again, so now you've got a case of you've got 4 bits of content split over 3 channels. So that's 4 times 12, 4 times 3, 12. And then now you're going to take that content and send it out as emails, website updates, sending that out as webinars on social media, all connecting back, hopefully, to your website. And that's quite important when you're doing integrations. What then happens is all of a sudden you've gone from 12 points, so you've got 12 times 4, 48 points now. So if you are running 4 bits of content a month, you've got to assume that now you're going to get 48 data points as you split that content out. And then what's going to happen is that data is then going to be pushed into your CRM, into your reporting tool, into your lead scoring mechanism, and into your automation. So having the integration component set out so that it's able to take all the marketing collateral you're building out, all the distribution of that content, and then being in a position where it can go into another system makes it incredibly important that you have that integration in place. Now, the best place to make sure that your content lives is on your website, because it's far easier to extract information from a single source than it is from multiple sources. Now, it is the case where you can have an email tool, you can have a social media tool, you can have a webinar tool. They all, you know, there's no one product does all of them. But if you can then point the content back to your website and track engagement from that, then all of a sudden your integration efforts become that much less. And the reason why the integration is so important is because ultimately you want to be in a position where you have what's this concept, which is known as investor centricity, the ability where you actually know what your interests are for your investor, what does success look like to them, and how engaged they are. And this is, you know, a good example is what I'm pulling out here is where you've got the case of an investor. Her name's Yvette. She's downloaded fact sheet. She's been on LinkedIn. You can actually see the last engagement she had with you. There's lead scoring in that record as well. And this information can either be pushed into your CRM, it can be pushed into your reporting tool, it can be pushed into whichever system that needs to surface this information for your sales team. So integration is really, really important. think as time goes on, most CRMs will succeed when a salesperson can log in to a contact and see their complete digital footprint. And that's why engagement is so important. A salesperson will not engage if they've got to log in 4 or 5 systems to see how interested they are. And I think I'd take it a step further, is they want to know in pretty colors or something very easy to absorb how engaged somebody is or how, and that's just all through lead scoring. So these are all things that kind of feed into each other, but without having a level of integration, you're not going to succeed. So, you know, anything to make your life easy is to build out these integrations. Now, of course, there are tools out there that allow you to do great integrations. Zapier is probably, I think, the best product that allows you to do that. Other products like our own have these integrations built in. It really depends on, you know, how you want to build these out. HubSpot, pretty close as well. Okay, so that's around the integrations and why they're essential and which ones should you be thinking about building out. The next thing is, once you've kind of built out these integrations, is like, what's the best way? How do you want to report on this? And essentially, the reporting you want to do is essentially to work out, as I said from the previous diagram, what's working, what's not working. What analysis can we do that will help us create better marketing content for the next month, for the next quarter? So essentially, dashboards. So I don't know what the audience feels about dashboards. Everybody loves a dashboard. And the dashboards are great because, you know, here's a live one from our product that allows you to look at who are the people, how engaged people have been, and what has been the inflow to the fund, which people find quite interesting to do some correlations. Things like looking at in real time, what's the global spread of your engagements, and you can split that down by country. So what's going on in France other than the Olympics. So you can see which companies in France are interested in your fund. And you can do things like find out which funds are people showing more interest in. You've got the ability to do that. So no surprise, ESG and global tech, but global tech's not doing so well as of the last few weeks. You can do some ROI analysis as well, as into what's trending and what's not trending. But the key thing here is the ability to have these reports on hand, as opposed to creating them every single month. And tools like, you know, Power BI, Gong, Tableau are fantastic for doing this. Yes, it takes a bit of effort to kind of set it up, but once these reports are created, life becomes much easier because you can just point people to these reports. Or in many ways, if you look at the next slide, you can always export it to Excel. And it's insane how many dashboards we end up creating where people ultimately say, oh, okay, that's great, but I want to do my own analysis. Can you download it for me in Excel? And the good thing is that, you know, there are products out there, ours included, that give you the ability to actually connect Excel into the analytics. And if people are happy just using Excel because they've spent the last 35 years using it, then there's no reason why this data can't appear within Excel. But the key point is, with all these things, is being able to visualize data, which is dashboards, which is fantastic, but then being able to give that data to individuals so that they can manipulate it in the way that they want to do it. And the reason that's important, because giving people that flexibility, is it frees up the marketer's time as opposed to just being a spreadsheet jockey. And then, you know, how many times have you created a report, delivered it, and everybody says, oh, that's not really what I wanted. I wanted this, that, and the other. So giving people the data in a tool that they're familiar with is always a great time saver. The other thing is also what we call having deep granularity in your reports. So when you are actually analyzing your data, being able to see when's the best time to send out content, when is, you know, how many new prospects have been generated from your work, how many of your prospects are active, how many have you engaged with, and what new opportunities have you generated? I mean, having this information to hand and being able to benchmark yourself month on month to see whether you're progressing or kind of going the other way, that's always very, very useful information to have, whether it's for your own reporting, for your own analysis, or to share broadly, is really, really useful to have, because it just makes sure that you're doing the right things in the right order at the right time. The other thing that's important when you're building out reporting is knowing if your distribution lists are growing, if your emails are seen to be convincing, is your content working, and are people getting tired of what you're sending them? And making sure that these are trending in the right way, again, and is also not just a snapshot, but compared month on month, again, gives you that ability to do some back testing on your own marketing and kind of plan for the future as well. Now, the reason that it's important that this is in real time, again, is because if you're busy generating content, if you're busy then scheduling it, if you're busy then doing the analysis, you want a system that can automatically do this for you, so you're not essentially doing it month on month in Excel, pulling in data from several different sources. Builds inefficiencies, consumes time. So it's really important that you have this to hand in real time for you to do the analysis. And the other part, which I think is really important as well, is the ability to benchmark what you're doing. Now, we in our product have benchmarking. White Marble have a product called Beacon that does benchmarking. It basically gives you the ability to do a peer comparison on how does your marketing compare to other people's marketing within your sector. And you can filter it down by AuM, you can filter it down by either an LPGP, hedge fund, private equity, asset manager, wealth manager, and the like. So again, whilst a lot of people will buy generic products, which is absolutely fine, having a data set that allows you to compare your industry and how you're performing against that is pretty important. As you get more and more comfortable in how your marketing is trending internally, getting the sense of how do you compare to your peer group is equally important as you build up your brand, as you build up your demand gen, as you build up your brand awareness. So that's the reporting element of that needs to be thought about, to be automated, to be available so that in real time, so you're not clamoring around different data sources to pull this data together. And an interesting stat is that your efficiency decreases by 15% every time you add a new marketing channel. So if you've got 4 marketing channels, you decrease your marketing efficiency by 60%. So add a few more, you're going to spend all your time, well, you're going to be incredibly inefficient, which does not bode well for when you need more budget or you need a pay rise. So that's the reporting element, and that feeds really nicely into sales enablement. And sales enablement is taking the noise out of the marketing activities. Of course, people come to your website, they engage with you on social. You've got to create your internal reports, you've got to create external reports, dashboards, everything I've shown you. But the key to any fund is the ability to raise AuM and, to a degree, preserving AuM. And pushing that data into your CRM for your salespeople to engage with is absolutely gold for a marketing team. And what it then does, it gives the marketing team the ability to demonstrate to the business and the sales team their impact on the asset raising process. And here's a dashboard that lives in Salesforce. Other CRMs, this data can be pushed into. But what we're showing here is the ability to see who are your low-hanging fruit, where are your cross-selling opportunities, where is your redemption risk, and where is your marketing alpha. And low-hanging fruit are essentially who are the people that are actively engaged with you, but nobody has spoken to. Cross-selling reports are here are the people who are investors in one fund but are showing interest in other funds. Redemption risk is all around who are the people that are investors that are not engaging with you. And marketing alpha are people who have not engaged with you for the last 6 months, but in the last month have started engaging with you. These can all be customized and can be deployed, as I mentioned, in other systems. And what it's doing is delivering actionable insights to your sales team. And it's a step far beyond who's just opened an email, right? It's actually going far deeper than that. It's adding another 2 layers of analysis on top of that. And what it's also doing is building out automations. And the automations come out from the lead scoring, which are the various stars for the various panels and the contacts within the panels in this view, which kind of moves on very nicely to workflow automation. So as I mentioned earlier on, automating the go-to-market strategy is really important, because what it allows you to do, it allows you to free up time and constantly be front of mind to your target audience, and understanding that fund marketing is a long tail sales cycle. It's all about educating your prospects on, I got it now, David Attenborough, educate, enlighten, entertain. Got it, there we go. Yeah, it's about educating, enlightening, and entertaining people with your investment strategy, your attitude to risk, and your performance that you have, and pushing that information out on a regular basis. And automation is just critical, because what this does is it feeds that funnel. It feeds the funnel, and as people get more and more engaged, as they engage with you on more channels, on more, and almost self-identify that they're ready for investment, is really important. So some very basic automations that is worth building out is what we call, event is the nurture campaigns and drip campaigns, which are constant emails after a particular activity. So one really good automation to build out is if somebody downloads some content or registers for an event, wait for 10 days, send them some additional content, and then once you've done that, change the duration from 10 days to 30 days, and then send them some more content, and then build that out. And then you can decide in that content whether they have a call to action, and if they engage with that call to action, then you can break the cycle and stop sending them emails. So that's one kind of nurture campaign. The other kind of nurture campaign is a bit cleverer than that. And what that campaign does is that it creates a branch. And the branch is, if someone has gone through the last process, but they are a brand new content, then send them down another route of your automation. Works incredibly well. And we use it ourselves. We've got 400 users of the product. Those that use it find it very, very useful in how they nurture people who are further behind in the top of the funnel as they nurture them down. And then what you can then do in any automation tool is when people score in, like they've been on the website, they've downloaded content, they can then be pushed into the lead deck, and in the lead deck, the salesperson can be encouraged to give them a phone call. And it doesn't even have to be in the lead deck. The salesperson can get an email to say, hey, you need to give this person a call. Okay, one thing that is without doubt one of the most strongest workflows to build out is what we call remail. And this is basically sending out an email about your fund, about an event you're running, about a meet the manager session that you're running, and waiting 7 days and resending an email to the people that have not engaged with that email. So people who have not opened the email, people who have not read the email, people who have not clicked on a link on the email, sending them another email. I have to say, this is such a good way to build out engagement in your emails and in the campaigns you're running. So doing that within your tool, or even if you have to do this manually, I know this is kind of against what we're talking about on this webinar. If you don't have the tools to hand, emailing people who are not engaging with you is really useful. And people who've used this, whether it's for events, whether it's for fact sheet distribution, whether it's for Meet the Manager, whether it's for a Zoom, an investor call, so useful. And 30 to 40% more signups, more engagements just through this simple process. And another one is all around split testing. This is a great automation for engagement. It's basically where you take your set of emails that you're sending out, you split the content, or you split the subject, or both, send 10% of those emails out, and then work out which one gets the most engagement. And then after a day, send the remaining 90% to the format that actually got the most engagement. Really, really useful, really, really simple. And it's not about, creating complicated workflows. Sure, of our customer base, I can name you probably 4 or 5 that have really complicated automations. Most people use very simple ones because they get the most return out of those. If you're doing fundraising, for sure, there is a whole science to building out complicated email workflows, website workflows, investor journeys, and all that kind of stuff. But for the main, most fund marketers, these 4 automations should be suffice to increase engagement by 30 to 40%, whilst not eating into your time in the day. So that's workflow automation. So last but not least, we're going into template design, and a new term for what marketing guys and girls have to do, which is marketing operations, right? That is sending out emails, sending out fact sheets, and all that. And template design, there's only really one way to do this. It's actually to get a professional in, and being able to then have a library of content, whether that's images, whether that's buttons, whether that's fonts, whether that's backgrounds, titles, everything you need to get that done from a professional. And I mean, we use people who are graphic, pure people who've studied graphic design. And it really is a case that the difference is night and day. And if there's anything that you care about your brand, which I kind of spoke about earlier on, having brand guidelines is also incredibly, incredibly useful. And why that's useful, it means that if you want to create something new and you've got all the artwork and all the assets designed by your graphic designer, you don't have to go back to them. But at the same time, if you need to, there's no harm in going back to them as well, to free up your own time. That being said, there will always be the case where sales guys and sales teams will want to be building out their own presentations, building out their own email templates as well. It just depends on how strict you want to be with your brand. My own advice has always been go with let people do what they want, give them autonomy and authority to do things, but definitely have some control mechanisms in place. So only make via your SharePoint or whatever distribution tool you use internally, only certain templates, certain presentations available. And obviously there's a compliance element, I'm sure that's taken care of. So that would be my thing. Don't spend hours and hours on Canva, because everybody knows when you've created something on Canva. Everybody knows when you've used ChatGPT for a LinkedIn post. So get a graphic designer in. The other thing to do is to look at using some of AI. And I know most of you will be surprised. It's like, oh, how come we've taken so long to get to AI? And I don't know if anyone's getting AI fatigue, but I just thought I'd put this in there at the end to just talk about how using clever smarts, as it's all AI used to be known as, can really, really save fund marketing teams a huge amount of time. One is the ability to have a tool to hand that gives you the ability to see what your emails look like on different desktops, and what they look like on different email clients. Saves you running around the office, looking on Gmail, looking on different phones to how an email is coming out. Another thing to automate as well is the ability to check whether your emails are being seen as spam or not. So instead of sending them to your Gmail account, your Outlook account, your Postini accounts, or your CloudMark accounts, and obviously corporate firewalls, knowing whether your emails are being seen as spam or not, automating that process, incredibly useful. The ability to check that your emails are being seen as compliant, huge time saver. And a true use of AI is and this Delivery Studio is built into our product, but the Delivery Studio element is really quite clever, because what it's doing here, it is actually using AI. And the AI that it's using is basically taking 20 years worth of successful emails that have been engaged with, and then comparing your own email to that, giving you best practices, how you compare against the best practices, and also issuing you advisories as well. So that's really quite useful. And this one, it's got a problem with one of the fonts, so that's why it's come up with an exclamation mark. Again, a really good use of AI there. So that's template design and marketing ops. And hopefully in the last 35 minutes, I've given you a flavor of how, as a fund marketer, you've got the ability now to look at your integrations, look at your reporting, look at sales enablement, consider template automation, and have given you some tips around template design and actually building out your marketing ops, so that you find more time and more space to actually do your day job, which is fund marketing. So with that, I've got a few questions come in. If anybody else wants to put some on while I'm here. Okay, so first question has come in. How much of compliance does it need to, how much sales compliance is required when giving people their own templates? I think that's the question. I think compliance is a scary area to go down. And when managers want to go out and change presentations, it is quite dangerous. I think if you're using products like SharePoint, whether using Adobe, it gives you the ability to lock down particular areas so that you can be sure that they're not changing that. So that's what I would say. It's very, very difficult which route to go down, but there is technology available out there. You've also got the ability as well that any emails that go out, you can delay them, and you can also get approval for that email via compliance in the workflow. But again, that means to a degree that the emails won't go out immediately. So that's something worth considering. Okay, got another question come in. What type of system softwares are you using to build these automations? Which tools? Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I mean, Pro Funcom, that's what we do. The screens you've seen are our product. You can do most of what I've shown you in any marketing automation tool, except that you'll have to do a lot of integration to bring it together, and you'll have to get consultants in to build out these reports. That being said, from what I showed you on this webinar, the reports that were generated can quite easily be done out in Excel. So there's us that does this. There's Marketo, Pardot that do that, but Marketo is Adobe, Pardot is Salesforce. So those are probably the kind of three core products, three main competitors that we go against. The difference is they are a bit like Lego. You've got to kind of build everything I've shown you in those products, while ours kind of comes out of the box. Email Studio. So somebody's asked us about the Email Studio that I showed you earlier on. If you actually go to our website, you can download that for free, and you can send out, everything I showed you there, you can actually do within our free tool set on our website. So hopefully that's useful for you, Vladislav. So that's great. Another question's come in on why should I, sorry, I'm just trying to read this. It's just gone off my screen, sorry. How many automations should ideally I be using? The trouble with automations is it's a discipline, and you can build out automations. I would say, so we at ProFundCom use about 8 automations, and those automations are around people who are downloading things from our website, people who are downloading fact sheets, reports, white papers. So we've got a whole set of automations around that. We then have automations built around webinars that people come to as well. And then we've got automations when people fill out the demo forms for us as well. Now, the challenge with all of those is one, making sure they're working. And that's the big struggle. So, because if they stop working, you never know. And then you scratch your head. It's like, oh, how come nothing's coming in from the website? And you realize something is not quite right. So for that, it's just the discipline of checking every week, the process that it works. And at the end of it, do you get informed that an event has happened, or if an event, or if there's a breakage in the process. So that's worth knowing. Okay, so I'm just holding on now if there are any more questions. No? Okay, well, that's fine. I will be sending out the replay of this webinar over the weekend, more likely Monday. If anyone's got any questions, my email address, reply back to the replay. And all I can do now is wish you a very good Friday. And sorry, someone's saying thank you. No, Christian, my pleasure. And hopefully have a great weekend. Bye for now.